So I wanted to do this video as a response video to another video that somebody recently made that is making some very valid points with Destiny 2 and the problems with Destiny 2. And I wanted to add on to this topic as well that this person goes into detail on. But this person, if you haven't heard of this person, do so. They're funny, entertaining, and just very good at Destiny and games in general. So please check out their YouTube and Twitch. But this person is Sweatcicle. They recently made a video that I will link in the description down below. Please watch that first before listening to what I have to say in response to this video, because I'm responding to it, but he makes some very good valid points, so please check it out. He titles this video, Destiny 2 is not sustainable for content creators anymore. And I would like to add in right now that this not just affects the content creators and streamers, but also affects you, the gamers out there, who just are playing Destiny in general. Because this goes into the grind fatigue thing that I talked about in previous Chibi Hours, ever since Beyon Light was first released. And I've had my concerns with Destiny 2's future, specifically because of one thing was them splitting from Activision, which was great news, but at the same time, they don't have the help that they originally had with Activision, specifically with Visceral Games, to make amazing content, aka the Forsaken expansion. And also, let's be obvious, the pandemic that's been going on has been making it a lot harder for them, for sure, due to the fact that they have to work from home, so they don't have the resources that they normally would probably have at a bigger studio where they're all working together, talking and sharing ideas directly, like side by side. So there's probably a lot of things, not even probably, there is problems in developing stuff when things are changed this way. So that is very obvious as well. And when these issues come in together, you see Destiny 2 struggling in a lot of areas that keeps Destiny alive past even just a month. Because Beyon Light is leaving its honeymoon phase. The honeymoon phase is basically where you get through, or majority of players are getting through the story on all three characters, or at least to the point that they're satisfied, doing all the quests, getting whatever weapons roles that they like from the new vendors like Variks and stuff, and doing the raid a decent amount of times, trying to get all the exotics, so on and so forth. And once that honeymoon phases, where all the new content that has been released, we play through it, then comes into the play the what we play most of the time in Destiny 2, because it's a game as a service. And not only that, but Bungie has made statements of MMO in Destiny's future and trying to aim for that. And I've always been like, oh no, I don't think that's plausible if they don't make enough content, like enough weapons, vendor refreshes, and other things to grind on top of going for rolls of weapons and so on, to ensure that it feels like a looter shooter, like MMO kind of game, whatever. And Destiny 2 Beyon Light is having this issue that even Shadowkeep did, and Sweatcicle even makes this point as well, that during Shadowkeep it was very bare on certain content, like weapons, going for rolls, going for stuff like that, just like we are with Beyon Light right now. But also when it came to Shadowkeep, we had the Moon, which wasn't really brand new content. It was a reprised area from D1. Now we got Europa, and of course we've had a lot of fun playing with the new patrol zone, the new raid, the new everything that is supplied to us. But again, we're leaving that honeymoon phase, and of course we're going to run into grind fatigue. There's a lot of things that play into this. I mean, just like Sweatcicle mentions, we've had stuff stripped away that were stuff that we liked from the previous Destiny, like getting packages, faction packages and such from like the Vanguard, from Dead Orbit, New Monarchy, Future War Cult, to try to get a specific role, a god roll of like any of the weapons that they would have brand new, just grinding and grinding and grinding, doing the same activities over and over again to get new things. Now, on top of this, like for example, when Taken King released, we had around, I think, like 9 new maps, new Crucible maps. So while you were grinding to try and get new loot from either Crucible or factions or whatever, you were also enjoying some new content, new stuff to mess around with inside of that playlist that is the core playlist that we grind after going through like the story or during or whatever. Same thing with strikes, and in this case, same thing would go for even Gambit, if this was the case. But Destiny 2 is running into a problem, and I'm wondering if this is more a internal issue from Bungie. I don't know. I'm not a developer, and I'm very grateful for what like Destiny has brought, even my content, like with my channel, with my streams, what Bungie has done. I've been around with Bungie since Halo, and when it comes to Destiny, I'm very grateful that basically Bungie made a game that allowed me to do what I do, that I love, where I'm making content, I'm doing streams now, and you know, I couldn't be here without what they've made, and I'm very grateful for this. But this is something that I need to criticize. We had high hopes with this Beyon Light expansion regardless, and I think a lot of people are scratching their heads and confused because it's almost like there's a giant silence on feedback when it comes to the elephant in the room. Where's vendor refresh? Where are the new Crucible maps? Where is the new Gambit maps? Where's the strikes? And this wouldn't be too much of a problem if we already haven't seen 50% of the game being removed. I honestly, in my opinion, I'm like, if they were not ready to make new content, maybe they shouldn't have done the DCV right now and kind of waited until next year. Or if they really had to remove certain things, remove some, but not to the extent of what they did. I don't know. But the new strike that we got, it's not that great. It's not something that I'm enjoying. As of right now, I know for a fact there is no strike exclusive tied to the strike, which is another problem when it comes to endgame loot. The boss is just the Eater of Worlds boss shrunk down, and it just kind of feels weird. It's like we're supposed to remove things to add in new things, it seemed. Like that was the whole point. Assets that are taking up room, so why don't we replace that? And the strike just kind of falls flat when you see the boss just being the Hydra from Eater of Worlds, essentially. At least that's what I'm looking at, like the exact one-to-one, sort of. But, of course, like I said, the grind, the end game reason of getting out of the honeymoon phase of Destiny and still wanting to play. Going for weapons. Where's the strike exclusives? Where's the new Gambit refresh of weapons and such? Where is the new Crucible weapons to go for? Heck, where are ornaments, like for armor to grind for after you get the armor sets? Like, where's that idea? That was something that was interesting in Destiny 2 vanilla as a easy way of like some kind of grind. Adding grinds that make sense are good. Grinds that don't should not be there. The new lore thing for Season of the Hunt is the way that it's implemented is wrong. You don't get to really fully choose what you're grinding for after you get the 3 charges, which you can only get 3 charges to stack on. If you want to go for the grenade launcher, you don't have that choice. It's not like the Menagerie Chalice that everybody was openly telling Bungie, hey, good feedback on this. And not only that, giving good feedback on the fact that there was a glitch to get tons of loot. So people were like, whoa, you know, getting tons of loot means a lot. Like, that's what people love if you're going to have tons of different roles of certain weapons. So, there's a lot of things stripped away from Destiny that worked. And every single thing that I see that does well is not implemented in the future, that's why I'm so confused. The Umbral Engram idea, where they have it in Variks technically, where you level things up, where then makes the grind easier or better. I just think to myself, what if every vendor had that? Every new year, you had a refresh on the vendors. There was new weapons, new armor, whatever, but there was also a leveling system for each activity. So you would get different tiers to unlock for example, the Vanguard. And removing tokens would be a big thing. Instead, you would rely on this leveling system where you would get maybe double drops through doing endgame nightfalls, doing a strike playlist, etc. Having a higher chance of getting a skeleton key for strike exclusives during the strike playlist. Stuff like that. And just like I said, the endgame grind is more tied to the level of our Guardian more than anything else. And that's what sucks. Iron Banner's returning and it only has 2 new weapons, which they're D2 vanilla weapons on top of this. I mean, people are even saying, if we're going to go the reskin route, why don't you just take everything from D1 at this point and just put it in there? Because they would take that over something from D2 that we already had. Just like the armor that we're getting in Iron Banner. That's from D2, just brought forward. No big changes to it, just other than it's a higher level and you can use it for this season. Because sunsetting is a thing. Just a lot of things that sounded good on paper if it was executed right. Like sunsetting, the DCV. I have high hopes for Savathûn, but I don't know. There's a lot of silence on this kind of feedback. Like I said, this is not something that just affects content creators. And I do understand that this has only been a month, but it would be very weird for Bungie to release the equivalents of 4 or 5 new strikes, brand new, and Gambit maps and Crucible maps over time. When the $40 that we spent on the expansion is normally during the first month or two, as we've seen previous. If we get a new dungeon, it's probably a month after. If there's brand new maps or whatever, it's probably right away, actually. And there's this giant, just revolved attention to, well, we'll get Vaulted Glass. Like, that's the big thing that people are mainly excited about. And I am too. I know it's D1 stuff, and we've already grinded it numerous times, but I said when I was playing the Navatu strike, which sadly I like more than the new strike, it feels different because it's D2, and it looks different because it's D2. I'm not saying that that's something's fully justified, but it's free anyways. And it was something that fixed it. But what was so weird is even though they brought the Omnigul strike back, where's Grasp of Malak? Where are strike exclusives? Instead, we have Xenoclast. That's our strike exclusive for every strike. The Brood Queen still doesn't have a strike exclusive at all, regardless. And the strikes that did stay, either the weapons that were tied to that are gone because they're sunset, and or didn't get anything added to them that originally didn't have a weapon, like the arms dealer strike. They could have added a weapon in there that had random rolls. I mean, there's a lot of D2 vanilla weapons that were strike exclusives that didn't have random rolls. But just things like that. I mean, when they said that Faction Rally was not going to come back, my instant concern was them saying, well, we're not going to bring back Faction Rally because we can't think of anything interesting with it. But then also just them not talking about the elephant in the room, where we would be fine if there's no Faction Rally, but how about bringing back factions? It kind of made me feel like they just didn't want to implement it to ensure that they didn't have to work on brand new armors or random rolls to weapons and brand new weapons to each faction every single year on top of everything that they would have to do for all the factions that they have right now, like Gambit, Crucible, and Vanguard. and even like the gunsmith, for example, or whatever, in the new patrol area. Like, it makes me concerned that Bungie can't do this. And I feel like they can't. And if they can't, that's it. But this is my feedback. This is my criticism about Beyon Light. Grind fatigue. It's a thing. And I told people it's going to happen. Because there's not enough. There's not enough. Even the adepts in trials are going to get tedious because you have to go flawless to get the adepts, which is fine, but the fact that there's random rolls to the adepts makes it, on top of this, very tedious if you get a roll you don't like. So the aspect of grinding nonstop and going flawless is going to be there, where people might get annoyed that they're not getting the roll that they like, even if they go flawless. And I'm not talking about somebody that goes flawless once and cries, or twice or 3 times. I'm talking about like 50 times. I have gotten 50 of the sniper, for example, in trials through the time that it's been out. And I still haven't gotten the snapshot Vorpal. I'm not even talking about the scope or whatever. I'm talking about just snapshot and Vorpal. Those hand to hand. I haven't even gotten a Vorpal, let alone a snapshot. I've been getting like whatever else that you can get on it. And I just think, am I going to have to go flawless 100 times just to try and see if I can get that as my adept? Because that's the only role I really care about. There's no other way around it. It's a big problem where there's too much RNG and then there's too little. There's not an equal ground for each activity. And some activities have none. And not only that, and I want to add in this point because I talked about this in a previous Chibi Hour as well, the video game aspect, because people forget about that. Destiny is a video game and we want to enjoy it. Where are some fun ideas that could be implemented in certain things? For example, Flashpoint is removed. Why not have a cool idea where they choose a flashpoint for each planet or moon once a week, but instead of just going into patrol, and that's it, you have to select flashpoint mode in the matchmaking section or whatever. And when you load into the flashpoint, everything is 1250. There's champions and stuff that maybe spawn and such, and the public events are 1250 as well. And if you turn it heroic, it's 1280. And you can chance getting exotics, chance on getting high stat roll armor, tons of weapons and stuff, whatever. They can even, for example, take the Shadowkeep weapons, add rerolls to them, like brand new rolls to them, have them have the new symbol of whatever the symbol is for Beyon Light now, and that'd be the only time to really try and go for those weapons, those god tier weapons, or that specific non-sunsetted version, is wait for the flashpoint and do your flashpoint during that time. So you would have your flashpoint to get the powerful or pinnacle. In this case, would probably be pinnacle and powerful, because you can do where, you got to do a certain amount of heroic public events to get pinnacles. But you would, on top of this, have a reason to keep playing on that planet or moon for hours on end for the entire week, just to try and get random rolls of weapons. They can do this with the Dreaming City as well. They can do this with the Tangled Shore. They can do this wherever. EDZ. Taking the weapons that were originally static rolls or whatever from that vendor, that planet, that area, and then add random rolls. Stuff like that. On top of this, adding cooler modifiers to strike playlists. Not have the standard one that they have now, but then have a harder, a heroic or hero or legend version that still has matchmaking strike playlist that has random strikes with the skeleton key aspect of strike exclusives to go for, having the Vanguard buff that they had back in D1, where if you stayed and kept going and instead of leaving, you'd get more higher chance of getting loot. Having brand new vendor refresh would help with the Vanguard strikes as well, but having modifiers that are like in D1. Remember getting burns instead of singes? Burns did like 200% increased damage on hits for us and also the weapons that we're dealing. Where's fun modifiers that benefit us, like small arms or specialists, instead of just heavy ammo or heavy, whatever the heck it is called. I can't even think of it. The heavy one that everyone likes, whatever that one pops up. But also have debuffs where we take a lot of damage. Bring back the old blackout where if you're doing the Lake of Shadows, you get hit once from the thing, you're dead, or pretty much entirely dead. Like, stuff like that would be funny. It would be difficult. But it would allow more replayability and interest. Same thing with Crucible, adding interesting things to the Crucible, new modes. Gambit could even have this, where they have a, once a month, a Iron Banner-esque thing where there's a mode that has buffs, there's modifiers, there's things that add to the experience. Whatever. Reasons to play the game that make it different. People will go and play Mayhem, but that's all there is, that it does like game-changing things. We need more of that. Grind, a reason to grind at a good level in each activity, each area. Like, content is one thing. Having new strikes, having new raids, having new dungeons. But I think most people, the reason after they get out of the honeymoon phase that they keep playing is the loot. The cool looking armor, the high stats, going for specific role weapons in certain activities. The more loot, the better the experience. So that's why with Sweatcicle's video talking about how Destiny 2 is not sustainable for content creators, it's everybody, in my opinion. Because Destiny is not like Halo, in my opinion, where it's like you're playing it. There's obviously a big focus on grinding and doing that. And that, if that's the focus, there needs to be a lot more to go for. And if it's something that is easy to get, sure, have RNG be like higher, like harder to get the weapon, or add more rolls to it. So then you're not guaranteed to get the weapon right away, but still supply a lot of it. I talked about the whole squeezing, where if you're going flawless, the RNG should be squeezed in a bit. Instead of having many variables of like the sniper, why not have like 5? So if you don't get the sniper, the role that you want that one time, maybe you can try the other times. And maybe each of those 5 roles are actually good. One's good for PvE, one's probably good for PvP, one's interesting, whatever. Maybe you want all 5 of them. Or they don't have to do something like that. They can keep it RNG, but have something of leveling up the trials vendor. Saint 14, like I said, with the vendors and stuff, just like the Umbral Engram leveling up, where maybe there's a thing where at the final level, it's almost a re-rolling thing, but you have to spend a lot of materials. Having the economy have more emphasis. A lot of things to grind for. Tons of things, feeling rewarded. Reasons to play the game overall, because patrols, no reason to. Nobody's really going in the EDZ. No one is going to touch Shadowkeep's areas, or even the Forsaken area, the Dreaming City anymore. There's no reason to, because all that stuff is sunset. Sunsetting was good on paper, but it's not going the way that it is. So that's why I'm talking about all these ideas. Maybe I'll go into major detail on each different category, because I want to, like the patrol one, for example. But I just wanted to respond to this because, yes, grind fatigue is a problem. So, as usual, I want to know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? But explain why. Don't just go, shut up. You like Destiny or you don't, and you're stupid if you don't like it. I like Destiny. That's why I'm so passionate about my criticism. I love Destiny, and I'll continue to play it. But I know that Destiny has a lot of potential, and I know that you can agree on that, deep down. So, again, let me know in the comments down below. But either way, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a chibi-tastic day, night, evening, wherever you are. And as usual, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next Chibi video. Chibi out.